I get it. All right, so here's how I break down the buildings that I'm going into. I've got 3 types of buildings that I can see. Buildings, rooms, they're all gonna be kind of the same because you clear out buildings room by room. So you've got complex, you have what I call the T, and what I'll call the L for simplicity's sake. So the complex, as you can see, there are multiple different windows, doors, ways you can approach this building, and while it's complex, it's actually the easiest to clear. There are multiple entry points. The team inside has to watch multiple points at the same time. Your team can breach from different doors and flank them. It's actually pretty easy to pull off. You can see here in this video, I'm playing solo at this point, I clear out this building by opening a door loudly on one end and then sneaking over, peeking a door quietly, and then killing the guy. As soon as he heard me open that door, he instantly started hard scoping that door. And so you can use that to your advantage. Maybe break a window, go through another door. You can play complex buildings really smart. Don't play so linear in a complex building when you're trying to clear it. Make your enemy think a little bit, get them guessing a couple different times before you execute that fight. Where things get really complicated is the T and the L, because we're gonna be talking about clearing out choke points where cowards put their back to the wall and their barrels to the door. Now, we don't necessarily have to play this with the most, proficient tactics or the most refined gun skill. We can clear out buildings through straight up brute force, a tactic that requires very little mechanical skill. Now, the biggest thing with all battle royales is we don't want to put our body or our health at risk. So how do we prevent that while clearing out a building? Well, 2 ways. First off, explosives. Whether it's frags, C4, Semtex, RPGs, anything in there to cause damage, even if it doesn't cause the kill, what it gives you is information. If you throw a grenade off to the left and you get a hit marker, you know an enemy's there. Let's say you're in the T-shaped building. If you throw it off to the right and you don't get a hit marker, well, now you can more aggressively clear off the left-hand side. What I end up doing is I end up putting in RPGs into the room. So I'll put in an RPG into the left side of the room. If I get a hit marker, I'm gonna keep tossing in RPGs until I either A, no longer get hit markers, which means they've moved, jumped out a window, etc. Or B, I'm just gonna keep getting hit markers and they're gonna die. You can also use utility for the same thing. It may not cause the death, but at the very least it can give you information. Let's say you're stuck at a T junction. You can throw a flash grenade off to the left-hand side. If you do get a hit marker, you can aggressively peek that left-hand side while they're flashed. If you don't get a hit marker, well, now you can more confidently peek the right-hand side, knowing at the very least you've cleared it out with that area of effect flash grenade. So those are some tactics we can use to clear out buildings without putting our body in harm's way. We can use those explosives to clear it out and get the kill, or use a utility to render them useless, or at the very least get some useful information to press in. But what happens when we have to put our body in harm's way? When we don't necessarily have those things to assist us and we have to go in tactically? Well, number one, don't go alone. We'll talk about solos here in a moment, but if you're playing duos, trios, or quads, here's how you gotta do it. So I like to break things down into phases. The first phase is the recon phase. You're trying to get information about going into this room or this building before you actually full commit to it. So in the recon phase, as you're working your way around outside of the doorway, you can clear out most of the room. For the L, you can clear off the entire part of the room except for really, let's say the back left-hand corner. For the T, you now have to clear off the back left-hand corner and the back right-hand corner, and we'll get into that later. So what I like to do in squads is I like to clear out the building a little more dynamically. I'll use the recon phase, but I'm not going to recon slowly. Anytime that we peek a corner or a doorway slowly, we're at risk of getting fried down by an enemy, because like I said earlier, their backs are to the wall and their guns are at the door. And so what I like to do is I'll have one person jump across the doorway and just take a peek in. In that peek, they'll be able to get a general gist of whether or not there are people aiming at that door. If they jump across that door and they do see someone aiming it, then you're gonna peek together as a team. The benefit of this strategy is, despite the fact that it's a single doorway, by having you and your teammate approach the doorway from 2 separate angles, it prevents you guys from getting collateraled, and it also makes the enemy choose whether or not they want to track or pre-aim the left or right. You can use this benefit to fry him down without both of you getting taken down. Ideally, you take out people in the recon phase. They're not camping at corners, but they're actually camping in line of sight of the doorway. So I have an example of it happening right here. I'm playing with my buddy Jenks, and he jumps across the left-hand side. When he jumps across, he sees that there's someone proned out laying at the door. He calls him, hey, right door, proned out, and then we both peek together.
Laying down this door.
Nice, great call out. The key here is good information from the jumping peek that he made as he was clearing the room, good communication from his call out, calling his location, and then also his stance, and then good coordination of us both peeking from both sides of the doorway at the exact same time. All right, so let's say we went through the recon phase and we didn't find anything, but we still think someone's in there. Now we're kind of in the execution phase. All right, so we don't have any RPGs or utility. Otherwise, we'd be chucking those in there to either get the kill or get more information. We don't have a line of sight on the enemy. Now we need to figure out what to do. This is where it gets really important as to what type of building you're getting into, whether it's the L or the T. Do you have one angle to clear or do you have multiple? So if you're clearing out an L-shaped building, and this is a little bit easier, full send that angle. Both of you go through at the same time as fast as you can because you have what's called peeker's advantage, right? So in the T, we'll talk about kind of doing a little jiggle peek, but here at the L, you only have one angle, and it is your advantage in a multiplayer online experience to peek that angle as fast as you possibly can. What ends up happening is you will see the enemy, because of your aggression, quicker than the enemy will see you, allowing you to get shots off on them first. If you have questions about Peeker's Advantage, make sure to hang around. In the future, I'm going to be doing a video about the servers, the tick rates, and how all of that information is going to affect your playstyle. And one of them is playing aggressive around corners gives you the Peeker's Advantage. Now, before you execute this, you have to talk to your team. Do a little countdown. You need to be right on each other's butt going through that door. Hesitation will get your teammate thirsted, whoever goes in first, and then you'll stagger in behind them and the whole team will go down. It's ugly. This is what I see wrong with most building clearings. If I'm in a building and I have a team rushing in and they funnel in one at a time, easy kills. I can wipe an entire team as long as they're sequenced. If they all full commit together, I'm done. Now, when you're going through this and you're full committing together, make sure not to stack right on top of each other. Maybe the first person jumps really far through, and then the second one just, runs around the corner and turns and holds a close angle. If both of you end up directly on a line of sight of each other, you can end up getting collateral. Now, where things get really complicated is clearing out a T-shaped room. We have to clear out the left and right side of the room at the exact same time. We have no RPGs, no utility. We just have to clear it out with simply our tactics and gun skill. Fortunately, in the development of this game, it seemed like they've taken an intentional design with their maps not to have that situation happen too often. Most of them are either the L-shaped rooms or the overall complex buildings. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you have to clear out a T-shaped room, here's what I like to do. Since I have to clear out both the left and the right side at the exact same time, I'll do what's called a jiggle peek. This is where you strafe from the left to the right really quickly just to briefly get a glance inside the room. During that time, you can use your line of sight to completely clear off one side of the room. You may catch a bullet or two, but you're not full committing your body inside the room, so you can still get back and heal as necessary. Now you can reset that fight with the new information. Let's say you clear off to the left and no one was there. Now you can full send around that corner to the right with your teammate, knowing you don't have to worry about getting shot in the back. If, like the L-shaped building, you were just to split it up, one person clear the left, one person clear the right, you may have a period of time where one person is peeking the room, clearing it, and not shooting at anything. By doing that brief jiggle peek and getting that little piece of information, you can focus your efforts more appropriately and win that 50-50 gunfight. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is. It's a 50-50 gunfight, and frankly, the advantage is probably a little bit more in their favor. When you don't have any explosives or utility to help get that entry damage, entry frag, or at least entry information, the enemy team is at the advantage. So if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have the information you need going into that fight and you're not confident, like I said in the beginning, don't force that building clear. This is especially true when we get onto solo tactics. Clearing a building is a prime example of the 50-50 gunfight fatal mistake. Now, the same holds true. By all means, you can feel a little comfortable clearing out a building if you got RPGs, utility, but for me, if I'm playing a solo building, unless I am just egoed out of my mind, clearing a T-shaped building where I have to full up commit to a 50-50 gunfight where it's either on my left or my right, that's really, really risky. Especially if I try to do that jiggle peek and he hits, 3-4 good shots on me, he may full send around that corner while I'm damaged. I won't have a teammate to back me up there while I'm healing. So it's really, really risky in solos to send like that without having some sort of entry information. If things feel a little too sus to me, I'm just going to back out of the situation, wait to see him in the final circle out in the open field, where I can outgun him rather than trying to force this awkward clear. So keep in mind the fundamentals as you're going through all this. You don't have to clear out the building, but if you choose to, that's fine. Just understand it's a calculated risk. But it's less risky if you're using utility to your advantage to help clear out that building. It's less risky if you go in with a teammate right on your back. It's even less risky if your teammate has seen this video and understands the effective communication that you need to have between each other, the full commitment that you have in the execution phase, the value of slowing things down in that recon phase to clear out the building. In the future, I'm going to be releasing a communication guide talking about how to communicate effectively to your teammates and the keywords and phrases you want to be saying in gunfights and throughout rotations. So I'm going to leave that here. I really hope you guys enjoyed this building clearing video.